It says, for the joke.
Those words have echoed in my head ever since.
For the joke, for the joke, for the joke.
Sometimes I get a break from the torture. A bit of silence where I can breathe again. But soon enough, it rushes back in.
For the joke, for the joke.
It's changed over time. It wasn't so muffled in the beginning like it is now. It used to suffocate me, waking me up from nightmares of Dean on stage in front of a faceless, angry crowd.
Oh, come on! You know you're supposed to laugh at these things, right?
His voice surrendering under the mob's uproar. His body withering away while I hide behind the curtain, watching, letting him shrink until he's gone. Then we're in his podcast studio. He's yelling at me, saying I destroyed his career. I'm pleading with him about something, I don't know what. Now my voice is drowned out by his until... a bang. Then I wake up, crying and apologizing. I'd listened to Dean's podcast for the rest of the night, partly to hear his voice, partly to listen for clues. Something, anything that would help me get justice. This is Dean's Killer Joke, Episode 2, Charity Gig. I tried to remember anything from before I blacked out. According to my rideshare receipt, I got home around 2:30 a.m.
Thank you for holding. You are now being connected with your driver.
Hi, you drove me home from Mahogany's Comedy Club a couple of nights ago. Do you remember?
You're a comedian, right?
Yes, exactly. I was just wondering, did I seem off to you? Like I just witnessed my friend being murdered, perhaps?
You seemed okay. You said you killed that night.
What?
Yeah, you said you had a great show, that you killed it.
Way to fucking bury the lead. I did, actually, figuratively kill on stage that night, FYI. I remembered that much. I made that call while biting my nails through news stories about Dean.
Has cancel culture gone too far? More at 11.
Dean Blackshaw, racist, dead and gone.
People were combing through Dean's stand-up and podcast appearances. Any distasteful thing he ever said or did was used to support their story. The horrible, racist comedian that deserved what happened to him. That's who he was now. But he wasn't a racist. He just made a bad joke. Damn it. That's what everyone says when they're defending racism, isn't it? I'm that girl now.
These days, no one thinks about the nuances to what we say.
That's my therapist. Dean and his cancellation were a big topic for us.
Especially in your industry. Everything is either black or white.
Don't forget Latinx, Asian, Indigenous, and non-binary.
Ah, I see what you did there.
I've been trying to get her to at least chuckle for 2 years. She's a humorless woman, which sucks, because, people pay to hear jokes about my trauma, lady. Get with it. It just makes me think. I've said horrible things before.
Well, maybe you can take this as an opportunity to reflect on the things you say and see if it's indicative of who you want to be.
It's not, which is why I gave the joke to Dean. I never actually told her that, though. If she's not going to laugh at my jokes, she's not going to get the good stuff. Does saying those things in the past make me a bad person, though?
Do you think you're a bad person?
It's hard not to when the whole world is saying it. Plus, okay, can I say something shitty?
That's what therapy is for.
I'm supposed to be promoting my first big tour right now. One where I'm actually headlining.
That's great.
Yeah, but when Dean was getting canceled, I could have helped him out more, But a part of me didn't want anything to do with him. I didn't want to get canceled by association and lose my tour. They're finally working out for me,
Well, you have to protect yourself.
But was my friend.
How would you have helped him?
By taking responsibility, telling the world that it was my joke, letting him off the fucking hook. I don't know.
Is anyone actually saying that you're a bad person?
No, I guess not.
That's something to keep in mind, right?
No one's saying it about me because no one knows. Letting Dean get canceled was the easiest choice for me. It was the fearful choice. I'm not a bad person.
I know you're not.
But I am. There was one detail missing in all of the news stories about Dean. His sister, Rebecca.
I know that she's in there. I can feel it. I can see it in her eyes, but I don't know how much of her is. You know?
He talked about her a lot on his podcast. A car accident left her severely cognitively impaired. And look, I know what you're going to say. I've seen the posts on social media. Rebecca isn't a prop that makes Dean a good person, I know. But come on, she deserves to be mentioned.
I put her in that home because I just don't know how to take care of her. Big Brother Dean can't save the day anymore. I need nurses and hospital beds and therapies. I know she recognizes me, though. She's always happy to see me. At least there's that.
Dean didn't have much money when he died. His will said to sell his assets and give the money to Rebecca Center. It wasn't much, unfortunately. That's why Austin, you may remember him from last episode, was setting up a fundraiser show at Mahogany's. All of the proceeds were to go to her living expenses. The media may have been ignoring her, but the comedy community wasn't.
Everybody looks at me differently since I was canceled. Oh God, I hope the ladies at the home aren't exposing Becca to it. She doesn't need to know how many people fucking hate me.
Did Dean's killer know how his death would affect Rebecca? Did they care that she was now alone in the world? I was getting justice for her as much as for Dean. And while I didn't really know how I was going to solve the case, I knew that out of all of the comedians in the green room that night, me, Austin, Jack, Carla, Kenny, I wanted to start with Frank Tasca. What follows is his last appearance on Dean's podcast.
I swear, Frank, people are following me.
Nobody's following you, Dean. This whole thing is fucking with your head. Just focus on bouncing back, huh?
Stop bullshitting me. You don't think I can bounce back?
Come on. Couple of months you're gonna be laughing about this shit on Fallon. How about that?
You always say, how about that, when you're lying.
That's bullshit.
You're trying not to say it now, aren't you?
Hey, if anybody can get through this shit, it's you. All right?
Someone will probably stab me before that happens.
Who, those pussies on the internet? Fuck them. They ain't gonna do shit. Look, if you're gonna do something, you don't fucking make threats in the open first. You think we would get anything done back in the day if we did that shit? I'm gonna shoot Jimmy the neck. We're gonna knock over the warehouse. See how fucking stupid that sounds? Just giving it to the FBI on a fucking plate.
Dramatic irony aside, Frank knew what he was talking about when it came to violent threats. All comics had different jobs before they got big. Some were bankers, waitresses, sad pencil pushers. Tasca, though, is comedy's favorite former career criminal. Mostly robberies and drug dealing. He didn't hurt anyone. Okay. Maybe he has.
That didn't stop him from shaking in his boots like I was gonna shoot him. I mean, I did shoot him, but hey, I had a job to do.
Who knows how much of his stand-up is true? He certainly looks like it could be. He's got one of those bodies where you can't tell if he's jacked or fat, but you know he'll fuck you up. As threatening as he looks, though, his smile puts you at ease when he's busting your balls, and supposedly, thanks to finding comedy in jail, he genuinely turned his life around.
Then why'd you start suspecting him?
Kevin, I was in the zone. I'm getting the hang of mixing my NPR voice with my onstage voice, you know? Like Terry Gross meets Fortune Feimster.
You sound the same to me.
Fuck off. But to answer your question, this is how I saw it. Everyone in the green room was Dean's friend.
Including Frank.
But if any of his friends are capable of murder, then it's obviously the one who's, a criminal.
So you profiled him?
It's not like I had anything else to go on.
I'm just saying. Keep going.
Frank's life of crime ended after a botched bank robbery, where a cop was shot and Frank was the slowest runner of his crew.
I was sitting in the interrogation room. These two big fucking cops are standing over me. They said if I give up my crew, I'll get off with community service. You weren't the one that shot the cop. Why should you go to jail, they says. I says, fuck you, pig. You know pig is a slur for them. I thought it was cool. Hey, pig, what's up, pig? My pig. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have used the hard G, huh? I ain't no snitch, so I go to jail. But I go to the phones one day to call my girl. You know who I hear in the background? My buddy that shot the cop. Hey, pig. Paging Officer Piggums. I'm ready to talk. A very juicy detail about my cases just fucking occurred to me. 24 hours later, I'm out of jail and balls deep in his girl. That's how the fuck you do it.
Unlike Frank, I had no experience with criminal interrogations. From what I understood from SVU, it all started with questioning Frank. I had to find holes in his alibi, talk to his bookie in a dark, empty bar, hack the city's mainframe, and get access to security cameras. Okay, I couldn't do that last part, but I could definitely question him. One problem, though. All of us suspects were under strict orders from our lawyers not to talk to each other. A judge or jury could think we were collaborating on stories or covering something up. Thankfully, I had a loophole. Remember that tour I mentioned? Right around this time, I was contractually obligated to go on a bunch of podcasts to promote it, Frank's included. Obviously, this wasn't the ideal scenario to get someone to confess to murder, but at least I didn't have to wear a wire. So a couple days before Rebecca's fundraiser, I was a guest on Frank's podcast, Dropped Soap.
Anne-Marie, I tell you, I miss him.
We all do. I can barely sleep.
You want to fucking cancel somebody? Fine. Don't listen. You know, I give a fuck. But to whack him, that just ain't right.
And for a joke? I wish there was another reason. One that made more sense, at least.
It's fucking bullshit.
I was nervous to start questioning him, but right here seemed like as good of a time as any. So, Frank, you know anyone that wanted to hurt him?
That's why I was there that night.
What do you mean?
I didn't have a set that night. Dean wanted me there, in case anybody tried to fuck with him. You know me. You fuck with one of my guys, and I'll work you over like a fucking piñata. I know how to avoid prison this time.
Was he avoiding that now? Oh, please, you don't want to go back there.
I would for Dean, in a fucking heartbeat.
Were you, like, full-on Secret Service detail or something?
Just when he felt particularly paranoid. A day here and there. Nothing really came of it. You know, I scuffed up some paparazzi, threatened a couple people on Twitter, scared the shit out of that Mama Luke that runs the lights at the club.
Who?
You know, that pale ginger fuck with the dark-rimmed glasses. Rodney what the fuck.
Rodney what the fuck. Actually known as Rodney Hader. He runs the lights at Mahogany's and is an aspiring comic himself. He's also kind of a...
pussy-ass bitch. He was never gonna do anything. But I tossed him up against the wall anyway.
Rodney was pretty hard on Dean before his death. Listen to the time he stood outside of Mahogany's with a megaphone.
I devote all my time to this club and barely get 5 minutes on stage. Yet Dean, a racist, is still a paid regular? Until they take Dean off their lineup, consider me on strike. Join me, people!
All he got was crickets in response.
Anyone? Hey, you! You're still going to enter the club? You heard me, right?
Shut up.
Okay.
The club themselves didn't even care about his protest.
Hey, Rodney, when you're done doing what you're doing, can you man the register?
Yeah, 1 sec.
And thus, his strike quickly ended. However, 2 weeks after his failed protest, a post of his went viral. It read, "Dean Blackshaw is a regular at my job. They won't do anything to ban him, and I need to keep working there to pay my health insurance. What's a man on the right side of history to do?" This blew up. He gained thousands of followers, and his podcast, Not So Hot Rod, skyrocketed. He was now the unsung hero of being in between a rock and a hard place, ethics and capitalism's healthcare trap. Here's him on the news.
This world isn't meant to help the little guy. Dean's picture hangs on the wall by my lightboard. It's like my bosses are giving me a middle finger every day, saying,
"You want your meds, don't you?
And it's a middle finger to the minorities that Dean's joke offended.
Yes, of course. 100%. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mahogany's didn't relent to Rodney's demands, even with his newfound popularity. And they had to keep him on because firing him would have brought more bad press. Thankfully, no one on Rodney's side went to comedy clubs anyway, so ticket sales weren't affected. But he still pissed a lot of people off.
He's just a virtue-signaling fuck. He could have emptied the club, ruining the sales, the waitresses' tips, the whole fucking infrastructure. Comics are supposed to have each other's back, and you're siding with these woke bitches?
But soon, Rodney's internet history came back to bite him in the ass. Rodney is 25, and he's had social media since he was 13, and as the world found out, all of his posts from that age were basically just calling things gay. People, movies, an ugly shirt, everything 13-year-old Rodney didn't like was gay. Thus, he became cancel culture's next target.
I need to apologize for those posts. They were written when I was a kid. I've grown up. I've learned how my words affect people. I don't use that kind of language now, but that doesn't change the fact that I wrote them. I'm deeply sorry.
You'd think Rodney would ease up on Dean during his own cancellation, but he doubled down.
I am an ally, and I will continue to fight for those without my white privilege. I hope this doesn't stop anyone from boycotting Dean.
Rodney was on the precipice of losing all of his newfound fame. Then, a couple of days later, Dean died.
Is anybody talking about canceling that jerk-off now? Of course not. It's all about fucking Dean again. That's all too clean. Don't you think?
Frank was right. It was. Also, hey, my first interrogation and I have a new suspect. Go me. Was Rodney there the night Dean died?
Yeah, but I scared him straight. Told him I'd put him in the fucking ground if he keeps fucking with Dean in the club. He got the message. So I took off. My work was done. At least, I thought it was.
Don't beat yourself up over that.
I feel terrible, you know?
I get it. But what time did all of that happen? When did you leave?
I got home around 1 a.m. Normally, I'm down to party with you guys. But I had to go to bed. The one time I make an early morning appointment. Dean died. How about that, huh?
How about that?
You always say, how about that, when you're lying.
Did he stay later than 1 a.m.? Forget Rodney. Frank's hiding something. Do you remember who was there when you left?
You, going somewhere with these questions?
I just need to know.
What for?
Guilt?
Yeah?
Frank's whole demeanor changed. From sad and remorseful to cold and biting.
What the fuck do you have to be guilty about?
That there's nothing I can do to help? That I don't even have an idea of who killed him? Do you? Ask with a little less confidence, Anne-Marie.
I don't.
I don't. End of sentence. No. How about that? Does that mean he's innocent? Solving murders has to be harder than basic poker tells, right?
You know, I think that killer will come out of hiding soon enough.
Why do you say that?
Well, like you said, guilt. Who was in that green room? You, Kenny, Jack, Austin, Carla, right? Now you're all pussies. Killing someone would destroy any of yous. Killer's gonna crack at the seams. You said you can't sleep, right? Why? Nightmares?
Sometimes.
Yeah, they say that guilt nightmares hit different. Really fuck you up. It's like this repressed memory just fucking scratching at you. From the inside out. That sound familiar?
He's yelling at me, saying I destroyed his career until... No. He was staring right through my soul.
Anne-Marie, if this were a decade ago, shit, I'd just be out there cutting fucking throats.
Whose?
Nobody in particular, just anyone who I thought might have killed Dean. What do you remember from that night?
I blacked out.
You weren't that drunk when I left.
I hide it well.
Yeah? Do you?
What are you trying to say?
I'm just asking. Everyone's got the same story. I blacked out. Just didn't realize you were all lightweights.
Frank leaned into his microphone. His body was relaxed. which made his eyes 1,000 times more chilling as they sized me up.
Nah, you're all right.
Thanks. From there, we moved on and talked about my tour, while a cool sweat dripped down my back.
How are you all doing tonight?
Motherfuckers! The man said, how you all doing tonight?
Yeah? Nothing like a good woo for a sad event.
Frank ended up co-emceeing Rebecca's fundraiser with Austin on a somber October night. The crowd was filled with comics, fans, and some of the staff from Rebecca's home. Rebecca couldn't attend. Crowds make her anxious. They left a seat in her honor at a table in the front row, and I fixated on it throughout the night, wondering if Rebecca knew Dean was gone, if she felt his absence, if anyone still visited her. Whenever I'd feel too guilty, my eyes would bounce around the room. Frank, Austin, and myself weren't the only suspects there that night.
Our first comic is your favorite 80-year-old curmudgeon in a 50-year-old body, Jack Gornez.
What's up? What's up?
Jack and Dean had a love-hate relationship. A lot of the hate came from Dean's many attempts to keep Jack clean from drugs. Did Jack get sick of Dean trying to help him and he snapped?
This is a weird night. Who would have thought Dean would die before me?
And then in the back of the club was Carla Stawarski, the soccer mom whose act revolved around her white picket fence looks and her dirty jokes. She co-hosted a podcast with Dean called Riff Around. Each week, they talked about the news, and their commentary was often reused as bits on stage. It was an inside look on how comedians turn pop culture into material.
Rachel Dolezal. You remember her? She's writing a book. It's coming out as a hardcover, but says it always felt like a paperback.
That's a tweet. Do you have anything else to go with it?
Not that I can say on air.
Did they have some fight that went too far? I had no idea. All I knew was that the last time we were all together, the last time we saw Dean alive, was in the green room behind this very stage. Now, all of us avoided each other's gaze. Even though none of our lawyers wanted us to be around each other, we didn't care. We were here to pay our respects to our friend. Well, most of us. One of us was just keeping up appearances. To hide that they were the killer.
I feel so bad for you, nurses. You're all nice people and you're here listening to us degenerates.
There was one person that I didn't see, though. Rodney. I asked around. He was scheduled to work this show, but he didn't show up. Frank's suspicion lingered in my head. No one talked about Rodney's posts after Dean died. Is it a coincidence? Could Rodney have killed Dean to get the cancel culture mob off of him? Bit of a stretch, but it wasn't nothing. At the end of the night, Julia, Rebecca's nurse, got on stage to say a few words.
I met Dean a couple of years ago when he brought Rebecca in for the first time. He was quiet. People often are when they first drop off their family members, but he started opening up to me and the staff pretty quick. I knew he considered me a friend when he called me a bitch for the first time. I knew we were family when he called me the C word. Say what you will about Dean. Okay, fine. He was a little inappropriate sometimes, but he was a great man. He wanted the best for Rebecca. He wasn't like the other people who barely visit their loved ones. He was always there. Everyone at the center misses him. I miss him. And Rebecca misses him too. Thank you.
I hope people will remember Dean like how Julia remembers him, like I do. But turns out the club was live streaming the fundraiser and they had to turn off the video feed's chat window. People were calling Dean a racist, an asshole, everything you can think of. That's how he'll be remembered. It's not right. It was just a joke. Yes, it was a horrible one, but Dean didn't deserve to die. In the end, we raised $50,000 for Rebecca. I donated half of my savings. It wasn't much, but I had to do it. Because just like the killer, if they were in fact in that room, I was also keeping up appearances. I was acting like I didn't cause all of this. I talked to Rodney 2 days after the fundraiser. He was surprised that I reached out to him and only agreed to talk to me if it was on his podcast. He, no doubt, was using me to regain some of the Dean-hating numbers he had before he got canceled. And our convo heated up pretty quickly.
This is Not So Hot Rod with Rodney Hader. Fight the power, fight the patriarchy. The last one of his friends to even look at me threatened my life.
Yeah, I heard. Did you leave the club after Frank did that?
No, of course not. I was working. Plus, I wasn't going to let some cis white man scare me away from my truth.
Aren't you also a cis white man?
Yeah, but I'm an ally.
So you're still against Dean, huh?
Respectfully, I just don't agree with his beliefs.
I don't think that joke was necessarily his beliefs.
Then why would he say it?
Because he thought it would get a laugh?
That's an interesting take. Let's see what our callers think.
Callers?
I thought it'd be great to open up a dialogue between you and my subscribers about the whole Dean issue. They get a live feed to every episode.
I didn't agree to...
We got $5 member Michael. Hello.
Hey, Rodney. Anne-Marie, who did Dean think he'd get a laugh from? Other racists?
Great point. We comedians go on stage to connect with people. We have a responsibility to not propagate hate. Anne-Marie, care to respond?
Well, I would say that it's the audience's responsibility to know that jokes are just jokes. They're not calls to action to commit hate crimes or something.
Sure, but it validates other people's racist beliefs. My dad thought the joke was hilarious.
Yeah, what do we do about dads, Anne-Marie? We know that most older dads are racist.
I don't fucking know. It's not Dean's fault that this guy's dad sucks.
He's a war hero.
Rough stance against veterans, Anne-Marie.
That's not...
I apologize for my guest, Michael.
It's okay. They're all the same.
Who's all the same?
Next caller, $10 subscriber member Melissa. Hello.
Hi, yeah, I think you have to be sick to come up with a joke like that. It showed who Dean really was.
People make mistakes.
And mistakes have consequences. I wouldn't be surprised if those were your beliefs too, Anne-Marie.
Hey!
Now hold on. That's not exactly fair, caller. Birds of a feather flocked together, but Anne-Marie was not responsible for Dean.
That's right. I'm not. Wait, what about birds?
But you were good friends with Dean, weren't you?
Well, I saw him at the clubs and everything. We were work friends, that's it. I was immediately stabbed with guilt. We were more than work friends.
Did you think Dean's joke was funny?
Of course not.
I bet you did.
Fuck you, kid.
Let's get back on track.
What is this? You say I'm not responsible for Dean, yet I feel like I'm just here so you can, corner me into something.
Not at all, but it's important for people to know what Dean's inner circle thought about his actions.
I'm not his inner circle. Another guilty knife in the back.
You were with him the night he died, meaning you were comfortable enough to still hang out with him after everything. Only a friend could forgive someone as horrible as him.
I was at work. You worked with him too, you know.
Out of necessity. Plus, I don't think it was okay to say that.
Me either.
You said it's the audience's responsibility to know a joke's a joke.
It is.
Do you think Trump calling COVID Kung Flu had no influence on Asian hate crimes?
Who's talking about Trump? Plus, that was the president, not a guy telling dick jokes.
I guess we beg to differ. Look, Dean was your friend. I get it. Sometimes our friends mess up. My friend Kyle never recycles.
Oh, How horrible.
I just want to make sure you're one of the good ones. Someone that isn't on Dean's side.
I felt the urge to deny our friendship again. I had my tour, my career, but it wasn't right. Okay, Dean's joke was horrible, but it doesn't mean he was a bad person. I'm willing to bet people outside your echo chamber think so too.
Maybe the wrong people do.
Did you forget about your posts? Are those your homophobic beliefs?
I was a kid, not an adult speaking to the masses.
Do you think it was your job to dole out justice? You had to make sure Dean didn't offend anyone else?
What? What are you saying?
You led your little boycott against him. You obviously felt like it was your white man savior job to protect everyone from the bad racist comedian. Was the boycott not enough? Did you think you might as well kill him too?
What? Of course not.
You were the club's tech guy. You would know that the cameras didn't work.
You know what? I think we're done here.
What? It's okay for you to corner me with your agenda, but I can't do the same to you?
Get out of my house. Now.
Did you kill him or not?
No.
Then who did?
Whoa.
The look of horror on Rodney's face snapped me out of it. He stared at me like I was a psycho. I couldn't blame him. Sorry. I left after that. If I'm gonna be a detective, I gotta learn how to keep my cool.
Hi, everyone. Just a trigger warning that this episode includes mentions of murder and frankly unfair accusations. Our guest today is Anne-Marie Buchanan.
Rodney aired my appearance that same night, 3 days earlier than his usual release day.
I don't want anyone attacking Anne-Marie. While we all hate Dean Blackshaw, she's still a person grieving for her friend, which is why I think she acted like she did. You'll hear what I mean soon. Thoughts and prayers are worthless, but I do pray she gets the help she needs.
Yeah, he was really worried about me. That's why he aired everything completely unedited, so I'd look like an unhinged lunatic. Which I am, but still. He probably wouldn't air someone accusing him of murder if he did, in fact, kill Dean. Right? Unless that's what he wanted me to think? Was he that smart, though? I didn't know. The interview went viral within hours. He was definitely back to his canceling Dean numbers again. Maybe he was smart? Either way, two things were becoming increasingly obvious. One, I wasn't a good detective. And two, people were starting to notice. Hi, am I at the right place? Does Rebecca Blackshaw live here?
Hi, yes, she does. Can I help you?
Wait, you're her nurse, Julia, right? I loved your speech at the fundraiser.
Ah, well, thank you. So I guess you're a fan of Dean's?
We were friends, and I wanted to put my info down in case there's any expenses or something that needs to be taken care of for Rebecca. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah, totally. I'll get you the paperwork.
As Julia walked away from her desk, somebody else walked through the door.
Hey, Anne-Marie!
Frank, what are you doing here?
I wanted to put my name down in case Rebecca needed some help. For emergencies or whatever.
I'm doing the same thing, actually.
I heard that podcast you did with what's-his-fuck. Who knew you and Nancy Drew?
It wasn't my finest moment.
Still feeling guilty?
You do too, don't you?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Isn't it amazing how guilt will just fuck up your peace of mind?
Frank's friendly smile turned on a dime. It practically shifted the air around us.
Yeah, the thing is, the smart guilty people, they go quiet. They just shut the fuck up. Want to know what the dumb ones do?
What?
They start asking questions. To make sure no one else knows what they're hiding.
I realized what I saw the last time he looked at me like this. This was the old Frank. The criminal.
People are watching you now, Nancy Drew.
People like...
Yeah, people. People that want answers. People that want revenge.
Sorry about the wait. Here you go, form's right here. Hi, can I help you, sir?
Well, what a coincidence. I was here for that exact same form. Why don't I just hold on to this one and look it over at home?
Yeah. Go ahead. Take it.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. I'll see you. See you real soon.
I looked over my shoulder the whole subway ride home. Did people think I was just covering my tracks? Frank sure did. People want revenge. Yeah, I do too. That's why I was Nancy Drew. Not because I'm hiding something. Well, not murder, at least. I had a voicemail from a private number after I got off the subway.
Anne-Marie Buchanan. Don't make me come after you like I did to him. You've been warned.
Like I said, people were starting to notice. Dean's Killer Joke is a production of Evagation Media. Please rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at Dean's Killer Joke. Written, directed, and produced by Brandon Rizzuto. Anne-Marie Buchanan is played by me, Jennifer Anderson. Dean Blackshaw is played by Jack Douglas. Kevin is played by Silas Emerson Harris. Frank Tasca is played by Ken Petrie. Rodney Hayter and Rideshare Driver are played by Brian DiRamondo. Austin Cooper and Modulated Voice are played by Benjamin Juris. Carla Staworski is played by Caitlin Krieg. Jack Gornez is played by John Carlos Maldonado. Julia is played by Caroline Lays. Michael is played by Kyle Bond. Melissa is played by Christina Molina. Therapist is played by Sydney Emanuel. Rodney's boss is played by Michael Ursu. News reporter is played by Neil Straughter. News reporter 2 is played by Mark Laskowski. Original music and theme music by Tom Rizzuto. Music and sound effects courtesy of Epidemic Sound. Audio editing by Brandon Rizzuto. Podcast cover art and promotional artwork by Sarah Shong.